Hi, I'm Freya Alexander.
And I'm Tegan Iversen.
And we're both artists and we're both part of the Melbourne collective called Femmes.
So Femmes is a collective that Freya, myself and a friend, Anna McNeil, co-run. We produce a zine triannually filled with contributions of women identifying and non-binary people. We also usually, obviously not at the moment, co-run events when we launch each zine, and they vary between exhibitions or markets or gigs and stuff like that. Yeah, we'll put all the info on how you can get involved if you're interested.
So the purpose of this video is just to give you a few techniques that you can use. So some drawing exercises, some writing exercises, some collage techniques. And the point of learning about all those different exercises is that you're going to be able to use them to make your own zine. So the materials that you're going to need are paper. So the first important thing you need is some A4 sheets of paper. So they can be white or they could be coloured. And then any kind of additional paper that you have, so like different colours, different sizes, maybe some lined paper, that's really useful as well. You're going to need some drawing and writing tools. So things like grey leads, fine liners, pens, texters. You might also want to have an eraser and a sharpener handy. And then also you need some scissors, something to stick things down, so glue and or tape. Washi tape is really nice because it looks really pretty. And you're also going to need some something to collage with, so it could be like magazines or old books, just some different images to use to collage with. So the first kind of drawing that we're going to do, and this is really just to warm up and get used to looking at our objects, it's called blind contour drawing. So the rule is that you are not allowed to look at your paper while you're drawing. So Tegan's drawing a little cactus and she is only looking at the cactus. She's not looking at her paper at all. If you think that you might not be able to resist the urge to look at the paper, you can make a little shield for your drawing. So you can just use a spare piece of paper, an A5 size is fine. And then all you want to do is take your drawing utensil and you're going to stab it through the center of your page, like so that you have this funny little shield. And while you're drawing, you won't be able to see what you're drawing. Obviously that drawing is going to look kind of funny, but that's the point of it. It's just to get loose and just to start looking. So for the second kind of drawing, it's called assisted blind contour or adjusted blind contour. You can do it on the same piece of paper or you can get a new piece of paper if you prefer. So with this drawing, you are allowed to look at your page, but you're still trying to look at the object more often than you're looking at your page. So 60-40, 60% of the time is looking at the object and 40% is looking at the page. So this drawing is going to look a little bit more realistic, but it's still kind of loose and it's about warming up and just trying to get used to starting to draw a lot. So for the next kind of drawing, you might want to change your object or you might want to stick with the same thing. It's up to you. So Tegan's got some scissors and these are really fun to draw. So this kind of drawing that she's doing now is called continuous line drawing. And there's one rule, which is that you are not allowed to take your pen or pencil off the page. So you're creating an image using one single continuous line. So you're allowed to look at the object as much as you like, and you can look at your page as much as you like, but you are just not allowed to break your line. So we're going to do some writing exercises now. The first thing that we're going to do is something that we like to call today's poem. And this is nice to do at the end of each day or in the evening. If you like, you can give it the heading of just today's date. So today's the 4th of May. And then what you're doing is you're just writing a list of the different things that kind of happen throughout your day, anything that stood out to you, or it can be super mundane things, just anything from your day that you can list and write down. It's really good to keep this poem short and sweet. So if you can just keep it to single words, that's really good. But you can also just do short sentences if you like to write a little bit more detail. So this next writing exercise is about creating poetry using found text. So you need some kind of book that you are happy to cut up and draw or write into. So you can find old books at op shops, or sometimes on Hard Rubbish you can find books, but hopefully you have something lying around that you're willing to write on and cut up. So there's two kinds of poetry that you can do with found text. The first, which is what Tegan has started to do, it's called Blackout Poetry. So this is a process of blacking out using like a thick black marker any words that you don't want to use, and then just leaving a few words still visible, and that's going to become like a new poem. The second kind of poetry that you can do using found text is where you find words from a book, but you can also just use articles from magazines, and you cut out those words that you like and then you kind of assemble them into sentences to make a new poem. So Tegan's showing a really beautiful example. So it's kind of like collaging, but using text to create new poetry. I've also got a little example here of a poem that I've made that's using found text. So this takes a little bit longer because you have to cut out the text, and often you're cutting out word by word, but it can look really beautiful when you put it into a zine like this. So the third kind of writing exercise that we're going to do, it's called Acrostic Poetry. So this is where you are creating writing in response to usually a work of art. So it can be an actual work of art, like a painting. It can be a photograph, and it can be an image that you found online, or it could be from a book that you have, or again, maybe one of the magazines that you've got lying around. So Tegan's just doing one at the moment using an image of a flower from a book. I've got an acrostic poem here that I created earlier. So I found this really beautiful image of flowers in a Frankie magazine, and then it kind of inspired me to write a poem where I was imagining that I was in this field of flowers, and I was sort of thinking about how it would feel, what it would, sound like, what the emotions that I would be experiencing in that moment might be. So acrostic poem, that's the next thing you want to have a go doing. So again, just selecting some kind of work of art, so preferably some kind of image, and then writing either a poem or a short piece of prose, a short story, focusing on or inspired by that image. Now we're going to show you how to make a really easy template for a 6-page zine. We're going to show you using an A4 piece of paper. So using an A4 piece of paper gets you an A6 size zine. If you want to make your zine smaller or larger, you just need to change the size of paper that you start with. So the first step with your A4 piece of paper is to fold it in half. Then you're going to fold it in half again. And then you're going to fold it in half one more time. So you're making 3 folds in your piece of paper. And you can already start to see what it's going to look like and the size it's going to be. So now Tegan's going to unfold the zine so that it's only been folded once. And what she's going to do is she's going to take her scissors and she's going to cut along the line from the side that's folded. And she's just going to cut to the middle. So if you can see where she's just cut that one line so that she's kind of got a piece of paper with a funny diamond shape in the center of it. So now you need to just lay it flat on the on your table and kind of make sure that it's really nice and flat. So just make sure that you've pressed against all the folds. And then you're going to pick it up, and the easiest way to do this is to kind of get that diamond shape again. So you can see that diamond shape, and if you squish the pages together and then you can flatten it down again on the table, now you've got your zine template. So there's lots of different ways of making a zine. This way of doing it, the reason this is useful and a lot of zine makers do this is that you can really easily unfold the zine and then photocopy it. So one thing about zines is that they're often, people who make zines want to be able to distribute them really easily. So making it like this means that you can very easily photocopy it. And then once you've got your photocopied copies of the zine, you would just be, again, going through that process of folding it up and cutting it so that it's in that nice little book template. You can also use, so as I said, you don't have to use just A4 pieces of paper. You can use smaller pieces which will make you smaller zines. So if Tegan maybe unfolds one of those zines, you can see the kind of size of paper that she started with. Yeah, so that's more like an A5 size, and then that makes a really teeny tiny zine. And you can also start with a bigger piece of paper if you want to make a larger zine. You can also use coloured paper. You can also, what you can see with this zine is that the creator has actually used a page from a magazine. So the pages of the zine itself already have really interesting patterns and colours on them. So you might like to do that if you want. And you also don't have to use the zine template. You can just use pieces of paper folded in half, and then use methods like pieces of string. You can sew zines together. You can staple them together. It's really up to you how you want to do it. It kind of depends on whether you just want to make a one-off zine that's almost more like an artist's book, or if you want to make lots of copies. So if you want to make lots of copies, which could be nice because then you could post them to your friends, you could leave them in various places. Maybe when we can visit the libraries again, you can slip them into the pages of a library book and leave it as a nice surprise for someone. So if you want to make more than one copy, I think that the template that we showed you at the start is probably the best, but totally up to you. Here's just an example of what the zine template looks like blank, just to help remind you of where you need to fold, cut, and how the page is going to be set out. You can find similar templates to this online if you think that that will help you. Otherwise, feel free just to pause on this page and it can help you set out your zine. Another technique that is really useful for zine making is collage. So this is why we want you to have maybe a couple of magazines handy that you are happy to cut up. So using collage is a really nice way of quite easily, generating images that you can include in your zine. So it's kind of like with the found text. You are just kind of looking through a magazine, or it could be a book with pictures, and just finding images or colours or textures that you find inspiring and then cutting them out. And I think it's nice to kind of cut things out and make a bit of a collection first before you start to stick things down. So here I've got, for example, an envelope full of different things that I've cut out from magazines that I have kind of collected. And it's nice if you sort of collect those things and then you can kind of look at them, maybe see if you have any themes or colours that go well together, or recurring images that maybe you could include in your zine. So we're just cutting out lots of different things that we can find. And then when you're ready, you can use your little zine template that you made. Use either your glue or your washi tape and start to stick them into the pages of your zine.